So, fulfillment. How do we make it as concise as possible? What is fulfillment? How can we view this? How can we even begin to view this? Because when we say fulfillment, it means so many things to so many people. For someone, fulfillment is a fulfillment of their dearly held aspirations, dearly held desires, intentions. And if we give it that perspective, then there will be only maybe a handful of people left on the planet who do not have something that is being dearly held one way or the other. One way or the other, if we are honest, if we are sincere, if we narrow it down, there will be something which falls under that category, which got to be fulfilled somehow. Somehow, life would otherwise be considered a missed opportunity if this have not been reached the mark, if something passed us by. And by large, we know that life is not a straightforward affair. We know life is what happens to us when we are busy making other plans, as John Lennon said famously some decades ago. We may plan something for ourselves, and it turned out to be quite differently. We may plan something for our nearest and dearest, and it turns out to be the way it would. So this fulfillment is inseparable from that unexpected, unpredictable flow of life. We cannot just hope that by, and as a footnote, today we come across a lot of material out there. In the digital age, living in the age of the technology, every Tom, Dick and Harry making a profession out of selling some intellectual property of how to fulfill, of how to find direct path to self-fulfillment, whether this is to make 5 million by the age of 30, right? Because if you didn't make 5 million by the age of 30, you're a failure, according to some really, really ambitious ideas. I saw that just today on Instagram, confession. Yeah, it's just flicked through the feed. Oh, okay, you didn't make 5, forget about it. Okay, because it's too late. And there is mathematical equation given why that is too late. Where does that leaves the rest of us is beside the point. Some other fulfillments. You want to be famous? That was I have received in the 90s when I was an artist. If you don't make it by the age of 30, forget about it. Because then it's too late. You have to make it by the age of 30. You see? So this whole machinery of what it goes into the stardom, or that goes into the living life as being acclaimed in some discipline. If it doesn't happen by then, your life is will be down the hill from there on. Whether that is true or not, again, it's beside the point, because our attention will be directed somewhere else. This is just to pave, if you will, the way to that, what this theme is aimed to address, is that there is this leitmotif, there is some power, there is this swelling power within that directs and moves us towards something. And if, one way or the other, we have crystal clear understanding where fulfillment comes from, what it is, why there is a propensity, why there is a power towards that, what we call now in English language, and I'm sure there is equivalent in every language, certainly there will be a very, very good fulfillment in German. What that term stands for. To that we speak now. If there is this crystal clear understanding, then it makes it easier to hit the target. You see? In the art of archery, shooting from the gun, anything, when you want to hit the target, if it's just being described, you know what, it's just somewhere there. You see that tree, you see that hill, the target is somewhere there. You know Black Forest, when you drive up there, around, you know, the target is somewhere off. If you stand back to that building, turn around, the target maybe, it will take hell of a skill to just like hit the target by description. But if you know the target, then you can take whatever that is available to you, stretch that bow and hit the damn thing. But without understanding the target, without knowing what the target is, it will be many, many wasted shots. Many shots. We will take shot at this, we will take shot at that. And we, in fact, will be left precisely to that strategy of shooting left, right, and center, hoping that one way or the other, or hoping that one day one of these shots will reach the target. So we speak to this candidly. And we don't just speak to this, oh, you know what, I'm going to tell you what the target is, because this comes with the job, you see, nice arrangement comes with the job. God is the target, or the self is the target. Okay? I owe my keep, time well spent, we can go home. No? God is the target, self is the target, what else is talk about? Where's the tea? Let's start the party. You know? Cut the cake, right? It's good to say, it's very good to have this understanding that target must be somewhere very lofty. I doubt very much that people just suddenly cycled around Freiburg and rolled into here just like, oh, you know, just see what's going on there. All of you are here gathered because there is this emphasis. You've made an effort. Everyone made an appointment to come and sit, to come and share the presence. So therefore, there's no need to kind of, oh, you know what shall we talk about today? Everyone knows what we are going to talk about and what we're talking about. All of you know. If you don't know it, then it's a kind of a great surprise, to me at least, and maybe there is something to it. I'm in to learn something profound here. That someone just walked in like that without having a clue of what we're going to be speaking about. So if you are prepared and saying the self is the target, that's all there is. That's why I'm saying. What else is there to talk about? I've done my job. Okay? That's why I said, cut the cake, Sundari. Come on, stop pretending, you know, that there are more important things will be said. So therefore, it's not enough just to say, place your loftiest aspiration to where that aspiration itself comes from. Because at some point, all of us have come across that truth. At some point, all of us have come across that all there is that is here, all there is that we can experience, all there is that we can think of, feel into, comes from that what is imperishable, what is the essence of every experience, that what illumines it all. One way or the other, we sooner or later stumble on this truth. This scripture is open. That book, which was no longer just a pointer. You know, we stopped reading New Age literature. We stopped doing the motivational. You know, up until we are interested in motivational courses, of course, we will be a target and really, really successful customers for the person who offers this, because one can continuously sell how to become millionaire, how to become successful, how to become this, how to become that. Because all this is essentially walking at the surface of affairs. Like Adyashanti says, moving furniture on the Titanic. It doesn't make any difference how we become successful in the field of life that deals with only perishable. Therefore, it doesn't matter how much success at that level is achieved, the sole feeling of fulfillment is there. A lack of thereof, I meant. The fulfillment cannot come from that, what essentially is an oxymoron to the very term. Therefore, we will speak about it from the point of view of the spiritual anatomy. We'll take this sharp sword of discrimination, or that scalpel, and we're going to cut this reality, to open it up so that we can see, dissect and see clearly what is happening behind the scenes, what is actually happening, other than trying to sense into it, trying to imagine or trying to understand what is happening. And to speak about this, we will, of course, have to first and foremost speak about the nature of the mind, because all this belongs to the mind one way or the other. All this, search for fulfillment belongs to nothing other than the mind. So in other words, if we are quick enough, sharp enough, insightful enough, we can already understand this at that level, that it only belongs to the level of the mind. There's no fulfillment or lack of thereof outside of the domain of the mind. There's no such thing. Fulfillment belongs to the mind. It is the mind that needs to feel that it is fulfilled or not. Nothing else. There's no faculty here, I repeat, that actually aches for fulfillment. But of course, the conglomerate of how all this sits in the house, in this house we call the body, is not a straightforward affair. And it's not as straightforward as it may seem so. So we will speak to that a little bit, even if to introduce some of the concepts to those of you who have perhaps studied yoga for a while. There is no such thing as mind and body. These are only categories in the language, philosophical categories to help us to understand. Yes, they useful until they are no longer. Body and mind are one. If anything, there is only bodies, different degrees of density, different degrees of the frequency of vibration. It's just happened that what we call the body is a particular density of vibration, which appears as solid, right? Has weight, space, moisture, dryness, all these characteristics. We speak of it as the body. Muscles less dense than the bones and so forth, but it's still the body. But there is another body, there is the subtler body, right? Than the mind, than the body itself, than the physical body. But we still speak about it as the body, or at least Eastern traditions speak of this as various degrees in density of vibration. We could give it to that English breakdown. Various bodies that goes to make us who we are nothing as various degrees in density of vibration. So the food we eat, of course, influences the food, the quality of the food that we eat. What the food is made of, what it is in essence already, which gunas it carries, which vibrational frequencies of creation, the quality of preparation, all goes into replenishing and making new cells in the body. But likewise also making the mind either more engrossed in the tamaguna or constantly subject of frivolities of the rajaguna, or increasing the sattvic vibrations. So if anyone, like whenever we came to California and started to get exposed to that scene, and really kind of, and the body is just like, who cares what, how can the God in me be influenced by the food I eat? When I had that, I immediately understood that there's a profound level of misunderstanding, cultural in fact. It's a cultural gap that we're trying to now do our best to restore, because that cultural gap created in a rapidly developed Western spirituality, these ideas somehow, at least when we speak about these non-duality circles, and non-duality has lasted for a long time. Non-duality is not just 2-3 year affair, it's 20 years, maybe 30 years. The generations of people grew up on that. But the importance of the body has been simply overlooked and dismissed. And here we send a very different message, a reminder that like increases like, that everything that we nourish ourselves with, everything, be it a food or food for thought, goes into the making these frequencies, whether they're dense or more subtle. It will increase certain frequencies. It cannot work otherwise. So if the food we ate largely tamasic, then it will only increase the inertia in the mind, dullness, stupor, forgive me, ignorance. And food which is light, filled with love, prana, and longevity, and sattvic, will likewise do its opposite. That's all. I don't need to add anything else, because that's all that need to be added in terms of how it all connected. And let us work on this in our own capacity, and this is a very large frontier, because there's no way we can carry on as a culture, as a society, without this fundamental realignment in our understanding that food is just something we eat and just to nourish ourselves. At some point, that breakthrough that happened in the scientific circles has to now reach the masses, has to now reach the corporations, the consumer understanding, and every household, that everything is energy. So since we work and speak very often from the umbrella of the Tantra and Tantric wisdom, then this is very, very Tantric wisdom, because everything is energy. Everything is different degree in vibration. And the degrees of these frequencies that makes the difference, nothing else really. If we understand that all this belongs to the sphere of the mind, we need to first and foremost examine what the mind in its essence is, what the mind also composed of, and how the mind functions. So here, of course, we will be really silly not to use the whole material that is available and left to us by our predecessors. And this is where tradition is indispensable. Those traditions where these understandings have been preserved and passed on from generation to generation are indispensable source of that understanding, because this is not a discovery of that century or another century. It is a timeless discovery which have been reevaluated for each generation. Just that.